All right. Welcome to another HVAC Insider Series brought to you by Breezy. I'm your host, as always, CJ Todd. And it's great to see so many familiar faces and a couple of new ones here today. If you haven't done so already, hop over to the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from today. So most HVAC owners didn't get into this business to work longer hours every year with less clarity around profit. But when profit isn't built into your system, that's exactly what happens. That's what happens when busy gets mistaken for profitable. You know, your schedule always stays full, your phone keeps ringing, but the pressure just keeps building and building and building. And the harder you work, the less in control you feel. So today's conversation is going to fix that once and for all. And we're here to talk about how HVAC owners can stop hoping for profits and start designing a business built for it. So here at Breezy, we believe that building a sustainable HVAC business comes down to clarity and execution. And that's about knowing your numbers and controlling your systems and executing on your playbook consistently. And that's why Breezy supports contractors in two different ways, depending on where you're at right now, right? So for contractors that are ready to switch to a more modern operating system, Breezy can help you gain visibility inside of jobs, pricing, and performance. It can help you standardize your workflows, and it can help you turn data into real decisions in the field. And if you're not ready to switch platforms, Breezy can help you grow by adding our AI lead capture tools on top of your current field management software. And I'm really excited to show you some of those solutions a little bit later today. Solutions that help you respond instantly to leads, even after hours, capture and qualify more inbound leads, and they can help you improve your booking and your conversion consistency. So either way, Breezy helps support sustainable growth for your contracting business. And for anybody that's new to the show, today, the HVAC Insider Series is a free ongoing masterclass series where we bring industry experts like Gary and Weldon, and we can help you run more profitable businesses with their proven strategies. So if you ever miss an episode, you can head over to our YouTube channel. I'll drop the link in the chat here for you. And all of those live live there. So please head over to YouTube, subscribe, and check out all our recordings over there. I'm really excited to get into today's guests. So Gary, Elekes, and Weldon Long, they are the co-founders of the Contracting Edge, a new best practice organization built specifically to help HVAC contractors sharpen operations, improve margins, and really build businesses designed for long-term wealth. Now, today, Gary and Weldon bring decades of real-world experience building, scaling, and selling high-performance HVAC businesses, combining deep operational and financial systems with disciplined, scalable frameworks. So before we get into that, they have a really special offer for everybody who's joining today live. So everybody who is attending this session live today, you're going to have a free ticket opportunity, a free chance to win a ticket to the Contracting Edge's epic pre-event on February 11th in Las Vegas. And this is featuring industry icon Ken Goodrich, who's widely known for leading Gettle through massive scale and growth. So that in-person event is a one-day small room workshop built for owners who want to turn their HVAC business into a real wealth engine. So go ahead and scan that QR code. I'll also drop the link in the chat. Just give us a couple pieces of information and you'll be entered to win that free ticket. At the end of today's show, we're going to announce the winner. So please stick around. We would like you to be present to win that. And we're really excited to give that away. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Gary and Weldon. Guys, thanks for being here today.
What's happening, CJ? Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you as well. Hey, Weldon, you just celebrated a birthday. How was that?
It was awesome. It was awesome. Turned 62 this week. Don't feel a day over 72. And we had a great time, kind of chilled out. We're in Palm Springs, working remotely this week. And went for a nice hike, had a cool lunch downtown Palm Springs, just kind of hanging out. Now I'm looking at the storm coming across the southwest as we try to head back to Colorado. Probably going to either leave early and beat the storm or wait till the storm passes and then go. But we're all good.
For sure. Right on. Well, happy birthday. And Gary, you look like you're about to pound a gavel over there. Where are you at?
I thought he looked like a priest.
Wally said I was wearing my priest outfit today.
I didn't know we had a new pope, but I'm all good. We'll start calling him the pope.
I'm in Nashville, but to Wally's point, I'm getting on an airplane to the Caribbean tomorrow and going to Dodge.
Right on. Well, hey guys, I'm really excited to get into the content today. Now, you've both built and scaled very successful contracting businesses over, 4 decades. So why start the contracting edge? Like, why is now the right time to start this best practice group?
You want to take that, Gary? You want me to jump in?
Go ahead. I got it.
Yeah. So I think the real motivation for us launching the contracting edge is there's been a real shift in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years of training organizations that are pulling away from live events. We started kind of when COVID started. Naturally, everybody went remote. Everybody got used to using Zoom and these various devices. And a lot of training organizations said, hey, this is really cool because it's a lot cheaper than sponsoring live events. Well, the problem with that is live events are the backbone of learning and experiencing and really embracing whatever the process is and really, inculcating it in our brains. So while the online platforms are useful, we do weekly coaching, for example, and we have all of our programs online. Gary and I saw this real need in the market for aggressive, comprehensive on-site live training events. So we launched this in 2026. I think we're going to do something like 16 or 18 live events in Colorado. Our members get free tickets to those events. We can talk more about that later if there's time. But we really felt like there was that missing component. The technology is great, but Gary and I are firm believers in high touch as well as high tech. And we just feel like that we got to start getting people back in the rooms, expressing our shared experiences, asking questions, learning from each other, just the experience you can't get in an online environment.
So I would add, I think to Wally's point, live events set the foundation for training, but we're going to have LMS behind that. And we see this in 4 phases. Okay, phase 1 is a company that's sort of $1 million a month, and they've got certain classes. Phase 2 is sort of that 1 to 5 million. Phase 3, 5 to 20 million. Phase 4, 50 million. And so we've set our picture up for the live events to be able to support any and all of those clients based on some of their choices.
That's a good point. And so where are you seeing owners struggle today? Like maybe Weldon, you could take that one.
Yeah. I think the area where I see people struggling the most, systems, processes, proper accounting, and marketing, right? Obviously, on the sales side, too, we can always use some brushing up on our communication skills. But I think the reason that the contracting edge is getting such a warm response and embrace is because it addresses all those issues. I come from the sales side, and that's kind of my thing, developing comfort advisors and service technicians. Gary comes from the operations, marketing, financial side of the industry. And I feel like those are some of the areas people struggle with most. I mean, we commonly see companies at 20 years old and their financials, just aren't even nowhere near organized properly. And so without accurate, relevant, and timely financial information, it's hard to make good decisions. So, and I think people struggle on the marketing side. I just had a conversation with a contractor this morning that, as they compete against the private equity folks who have much bigger marketing budgets than we do, people haven't figured out how to kind of niche market. And I think that's where Gary brings a lot of expertise. I think in the marketing side and the financial side, and I think, and Gary can confirm this or deny it, but I know when he goes on a consulting project, the first thing he does is take a look at their financial framework and make sure that that's straight before we even move ahead with any other coaching, consulting, whatever.
Yeah, one additional point to that is we've affiliated with the team Breezy, and we're hoping that over time that the team at Breezy will take a lot of financial acumen that we have on Excel and Google Worksheets and turn that into a software productivity question. So you started with the initial discussion, which is activity versus productivity. And what we're looking for at the contractor level is how do we turn each of the production teams into a more productive group? The office team has to be more productive. Revenue per employee instead of 350 to 500, maybe drive that to $1 million. And that way that we can scale the business, not necessarily have to put in 80 hours.
Yeah, that's a good point. So talk to us a little bit, Weldon, about this epic pre-event that you guys are hosting on February 11th. Ken Goodrich, industry icon.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, well, Gary and Ken go back decades together. They've been friends and business associates for many, many years. And this event was really kind of Gary's idea. And why don't we host this event, a one-day event? You know, we know we're going to have a lot of folks. Gary and I have done a lot of work with EGIA over the last 8 or 9 years. And so, you know, we've got a lot of friends and relationships with contractors in that organization that are customers of that organization. And so it's not uncommon. I think Gary's done it with iMarket a number of years, kind of a pre-event on the day before Epic, and thought we should do that. And it's a one-day kind of action-packed one day of, you know, here's the information you need to grow and scale your company. Because he and Ken Goodrich are old friends, he asked Ken, and of course, nobody can afford Ken these days, but as a personal favor, he agreed to do it for Gary. When you talk to Ken, if you get a chance to talk to him, he will tell you that he credits Gary for his success in the industry. And I know Ken's been around for a long time and had an extraordinary amount of success, but he attributes that success to what he learned from Gary early on in the business. And so it's going to be fun to pick both of their brains. I'll be there as well. More or less is, you know, just kind of hosting or moderating the event, kind of like you're doing today. But there's going to be some real nuggets of knowledge raining down from Gary and Ken Goodrich on this event.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Gary, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think the one day event is enough time to talk about what has to happen, not how to drive what happens. I think those are Q&A type. We'll support that through the Convicting Edge. But we want to lay out the plan. So if a company wants to sell or scale in the next 3 to 5 years, they can transact with private equity or family or however they want to, you know, they want to merge with a larger organization. They'll have the people. And so Ken and I have done this enough times, and there's a formula. And so the marketing messaging might be different in the local market, but the idea that you have to have certain marketing practices in place, that doesn't change. So we're going to go through the process and just make sure everybody has the game plan. And then while we didn't have the benefit of last class or something about the service management leadership class, but one of the things we had a large dialogue about, 45 folks that attended, was between knowledge and willpower. So we're going to impart knowledge on PowerPoint slides, materials, or big question, then the willpower to make those adjustments, and that's always the hardest part.
Love it. Yeah, I'm going to be out at Epic. I fly in on the 11th, so maybe I'll tag along and come say what's up to you guys. Let's talk about this 20% profit standard. You both talk about it openly, this 20% profit benchmark. I think you're going to discuss that in detail on the February 11th event. Why shouldn't HVAC owners settle for less than 20% profit margins?
Well, I'll jump in first on that one. Number one, there's the element of risk that you take to run the company, the liability of all those trucks and any money that's borrowed and suppliers and accounts payable and different things that rest on the owner's shoulder. And so, you know, we're entitled to a profit in exchange for the risk and the hard work. As I always tell owners, if for some reason your company collapsed, everybody in your company would have a job within 24 hours. You'd be trying to figure out how to pay off the millions of dollars of debt over the next 5 or 10 years. And what I've learned from Gary, you know, I sold my most recent company. We grew that company from 0 to $42 million in 5 years. And Gary had a lot to do with that, especially in the last 3 years of really getting, because I'm a sales guy. I drive sales hard, and driving a lot of sales, as Gary will tell you, will bury a lot of sins. but there were some fundamental weaknesses we had on the operations and financial side that when we got fixed, our company really got lean and mean. We sold that about a year and a half ago. But what I've noticed about when Gary and I, because Gary and I have 7 other companies that we own in partnerships across the country, and when Gary goes in for the initial, usually we have a 2.5 or 3 day on site where Gary and I come in. The 20% profitability is not something that just happens. It doesn't just accidentally happen. He builds the business and the financial plan working backwards from here's what your overhead is, here's what your cost of goods are, here's how many gross profit dollars you need to make per day to cover your overhead, and here's the 20% that you're going to net on top of that. So he builds the entire model with that in mind. It doesn't just happen like, oh, by the way, we made 20%. It's the recipe. It's the business plan that's created at the very beginning. And then it's just a matter, as Gary said earlier, about that implementation, execution, the discipline to do the work. But it's a plan. So it's not just an accidental byproduct of hard work. That's exactly the recipe that you're following.
Yeah, jump in there for me, Gary.
Yeah, here's a financial metric. 15% is the minimum, because by the time you pay tax, typically interest on your van replacement. I mean, if you're replacing your van every 5 years, which most cases that's what we want to do, because on a general rule, there's going to be interest. So 10% after taxes and interest, it probably brings you down to around 8%. That's what you use to reinvest in the business. The problem with it is you're going to probably use about 8%. So the 20% allows the owner to take K1. So if CJ is working 60, 70 hours a week and he wants to put his kids through college education, and you have another one of those new babies that you're producing here, CJ, you need to have K1. So 20% minus the taxes leaves you around 12. You can take some money out, 4 or 5% as a K1 plus your salary, which you deserve for the risk, and the business has the capital to be able to reinvest in itself. So Wally and I acquired a company in Northern Colorado and bolted it into existing HVAC business, and we had to buy a dump truck, and so we bought one. It's $105,000. Where's that money come from? And so then we needed a second dump truck because we had 23 septic field jobs pre-sold and about $25,000 per field. And you start doing math, we might as well have a dump truck. And so we pulled up one day and Wally goes, man, I've always wanted to own a dump truck. We got dumped.
I felt like a kid with those big yellow Tonka dump trucks.
And they're beautiful. They're brand new. But where did that money come from? And the answer is the business itself had to produce the operating cash flow. So you have to be at that number to be able to growth. So look, if you don't want to grow and you don't care, then making 10% is a good business. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. So, but 20% is the best part to keep the business in working capital.
Right. So that 20% margin creates options and stability for, you to take some risks, to, try new things and still have, everybody in your business taken care of.
Or buy that company.
Right.
Or
exactly.
Ms. Gettle, go acquire multiple companies so that you're growing through organic growth plus acquisitions. And that's how you build it.
It's retained earnings, CJ. It's like so many owners, they think about how much they're going to make. The business is a separate entity. I mean, legally, it's a separate entity. The business needs to make money just like the owner needs to make money, right? Because as Gary said, if you're going to expand, grow, buy assets, whatever, the company has to have resources, i.e. capital, i.e. profits from their earnings to retain some of those earnings to grow the company or to acquire other companies, as Gary said.
That makes sense. And on the other end of the spectrum, talk about a little bit, if an owner's trying to sell, the buyers and lenders look at margins, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
They're going to look
you want to comment
immediately at repetitive revenue. Does that revenue reoccur, or is that new construction or commercial, which is may or may not. So that devalues the asset. It's not the bad seed; it just doesn't get paid at the higher multiple. If I have a business producing 2, 3, 4 years, 20% plus profit plus add back, the companies that are acquiring pay a much higher.
Makes sense. So what are the systems that really control that 20% margin?
You want to go, Walt?
Go ahead.
First and foremost, we have to know the cost of the widget. So Weldon's quite correct. Always look at the foundation of what the financial structure is telling us. Departmentalization, one of those things. How does the service business, run a call with us? And then we can set pricing at 20% from that place. So the second discussion would be about price strategy, price positioning. The market relevance dictates what somebody is worth in the marketplace. Wally is worth $2,000 a day consulting. He's worth every penny. So another consultant that's sales trainer might be worth $8,000. What's the difference? The answer is Wally just brings more competence, more skills, more value added. So when we look at pricing, we're going to establish 20% and we're going to establish a strategy that says, what are we actually worth in the market? So I'll give you an example. In Colorado, we established a price for $225 per hour. The break even was $375 when we actually did the analysis. So every service call running, we're losing $50. So we immediately raised the price to $425. That basically creates a profit structure around the service call. Within 6 months, the price was at $25 per hour for the labor hour. And the basis of that was we kept A/B testing to see where the marketplace would reject us. And the marketplace still hasn't rejected us. In San Antonio, we did the same thing. We're at $575. George, Wally, prices of $575 while we were in the service workshop last week. So we want to set pricing, and that's sort of the second indicator. The third thing, and probably the most important, is you got to have somebody like Weldon who can do sales training, communication training, and the ability for people to build trust and pay us the value that we're producing. So me pricing at $575 is great, but who buys it, who cares? So, Wally, I'll let you take it from there.
Well, one of the points that Gary often makes, I've heard him say many, many times, obviously a lot of companies in our industry are notoriously underpriced. And that's largely because they don't really have a pricing model. They'll just look what the competition's charging, or they'll pick an arbitrary, I want a 45% gross profit. And those are just kind of winging it type of strategies. What Gary does is come in and teaches folks how to measure the amount of gross profit dollars they need to cover their overhead on a daily basis and a per crew basis. Gets down into the weeds very, very deep. So if I've got $100,000 of overhead, it's $5,000 give or take per working day. I need 5,000 gross profit dollars per day just to break even. If I'm fortunate enough to have work for 2 crews, then each crew's got to bring in $2,500. And then he adds the profitability goals on top of that. But to do that, the result is probably going to be that your prices are going up. As he mentioned, the company in Colorado charging $225 an hour, but it was costing them $375 or $350 an hour to run those calls. You can't make that up in volume. We're losing money on every call. How do we make up for it? Volume. Put more trucks on the road. Doesn't work that way. But there has to be a simultaneous growth in communications and sales skills from the service technicians and the comfort advisors. If we raise our prices 10%, 12%, whatever it turns out to be, to fit in the formula, then you can't be the same people out there dropping off bids and expect to sell like that. You have to adopt a professional sales process, right? A professional communications process, both on the service technician and the comfort advisor side. So these things all have to kind of rise together. You can't just raise your prices and keep dropping off bids. Everybody has to get better across the entire spectrum of the business and all the various departments. Everybody's got to get better. And if you just get better financial accounting and say, hey, we're losing money, we need to raise our prices, but I got a bunch of knuckleheads over dropping off bids, right? That's not going to work. You got to get better on the communication sales side too. It all works together. It's integrated.
Right. So
yeah, CJ, the last part of that is talk about building this around the flywheel concept, good to great, Jim Collins. And so we've got all these bullet point teams we put on. Now what we've created is marketing. It's really just a game of finding new customers now. So Wally is doing the same thing, and we have the closure rates, action rates where we want them. We have the prices where we want them. We We have the production teams where we want them. We have Breezy software in place. We got reporting. We got finance. Now it's just figuring out how to go through new customers and put them in the top of the funnel. And at the bottom of the funnel, we produce a club agreement for transactions. And so that's really the final element of this. You know, how do we find new customers?
Love that. And so how then, if there are three kind of systems working in tandem, where's the first place a contractor starts when they're looking to overhaul this whole part of their business, their entire business?
Simple normalization, just getting their financial statement, put them in a position where they actually have data, and we can hand them performance indicators. But if the financial statement is a mess, that doesn't matter. Like, it's just good information that cannot be applied. So one of department-wise, we want to understand what the service business is doing, what the HVAC installation business is doing, maintenance, if they're doing new construction, like commercial. Each of those is plumbing, residential. The purpose of that is one of those segments, the income statement. Once you have that, there's full transparency of what's happening. It's like the other day I got up to the Wally, it said 180 pounds, and that's 18 pounds over the KPI.
Yeah. It all has got to tie together. And I agree with Gary. You know, your financial reports are kind of your GPS on your phone, and they're going to tell you if you're going the right direction with your sales, your pricing, your operations. If you change all those, but don't change your financial accounting, you have no way to measure if any of this stuff is working. You know, you don't know if it's working. You don't know if you're getting better at your margins. You don't know if you're getting better at profitability. You don't know if you're getting better at controlling cost of goods. You have to have the glasses. You got to have the spectacles, and the spectacle, the glasses, is the financial document. And that financial document, you have to have that in place first so you can measure what the hell is going on in the other work that you're doing. So otherwise, you're just flying blind. And we all love Ray Charles, but nobody wants him driving our plane.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, Gary, as you know, we've been working together at Breezy to kind of build this dashboard of KPIs, the most important KPIs that you've identified. Can you talk a little bit about KPIs and what we're working on at Breezy over here with this kind of dashboard?
Yeah, there's a difference between a KPI and a metric. Some people will use synonymous terms, metrics, goals, rocks, depends on which book you're reading currently. But a KPI is a foundation number that's been vetted over decades, different markets, different countries. And we usually refer to those as percentages because as costs change, you know, prices go up, percentage would remain, you know, the equivalent of the KPI. So we can look at residential change out and say that should be 9% or less. We know that number. If you're at 7, you're doing great. If you're at 12, probably ought to see why we're at 12 versus 9. So a metric is a point along the continuum towards an objective, like as a KPI. So for example, I weigh 180 pounds, that's 18 pounds overweight. The KPI 162 is the KPI. The goal or the metric might be, well, let's lose 5 pounds in the next month. Let's take 180 to 75. That's a metric. And so metrics are valuable. We use those to determine, you know, our success or failure based on set of actions. But at the end of the day, you need to understand that KPIs are not something that you argue with. So when we do a budget and we set the pricing, we organize that around KPIs. And so somebody might be like, nobody will ever buy it if our prices are $425 or $525 or $575. And the answer doesn't matter. You're losing money. Every single call, you're losing $150. Why are you doing that? If nobody bought from us, we would actually lose money. So.
And this kind of visual that we see right here on the screen, this ties into the FSM, right? Whether it's Breezy or this tool can sit on top of your existing FSM, like a Service Titan or a House Call Pro, and it pulls in, the real field data into this customized dashboard. So you can have this visual, this pre-built, Gary-approved visual that can really, help you make decisions, drive you toward those goals, and really keep tabs of that metric. So, Wally, I want to kind of shift to mindset, right? So I'm sure that this entire kind of transition, in your pricing, in your sales training, in your marketing, it takes a mindset shift from the leadership. Can you talk a little bit about your kind of mindset philosophy and maybe how, the contracting edges in-person events can help kind of tackle that?
Yeah. One of the first things we like to do after Gary builds the business plan, the budget, gets the financial documents and reports in order, even really before I get into the sales and communications training, I always like to attack the mindset. Now, I've written a book on this called The Power of Consistency. So it's not just some random thing we teach. It's a book. It's a New York Times best-selling book that I wrote a number of years ago, and we created a program that we teach at the Contracting Edge based on that book. And really what it's about is creating the right kind of culture and mindset in the business. One of the real weaknesses of our industry is that we look down on the sales process. It's very common that people are concerned about looking like a salesperson. And in fact, I've been around our industry now for coming up on 25 years. And if you go into any contracting company and ask everybody in the room, what's the first word that you think of when I say the word salesman, 60 to 70% of those will have a negative word come to mind. Now, just stop and think about the lunacy of that. If I'm in sales or I'm a service technician and I want to be a top producer, in other words, I want to sell a lot, but my core belief and my mindset is that salespeople are pushy, obnoxious, whatever, how am I ever going to get good at sales? How can I get good at something that fundamentally deep in the box, as I refer to it, has a negative belief around it? So part of what we do in the mindset is we teach people that sales is an honorable profession. All it is communicating. It's high service, not high pressure. And so we have to create a mindset and a culture of sales positivity in our company. Everybody needs to understand that sales, obviously, are the lifeblood of our companies. And so we have to have a healthy perspective on sales. If deep down we think sales, it's funny. You talk to contractors, and let's say it's the busiest day of the summer, they got 100 service calls stacked up. They would never go grab somebody from the accounting department and say, hey, can you run some service calls for me? They would never do that. But when it comes to sales, they'll grab somebody with a pulse and a heartbeat and say, hey, you're the sales guy, right? We don't really give it the credibility. And I would never say that it's more important than quality installers and quality service technicians. All I'm saying is we got to make it as important. We have to elevate the value of the sales function, the communications function, if we're truly going to be successful. And that starts with the mindset shift, that sales is an honorable profession. Sales is about problem solving and improving the quality of life for our homeowners. Until we get that mindset, we're going to struggle. The other side of the mindset is creating a mindset that is built and designed to thrive in the face of adversity and challenges, to overcome whatever difficulty. Because weak-minded people are never really successful. And a large degree of our success in life depends on how we deal with setbacks and struggles and obstacles. Some people wither under the pressure of something bad that happens. Other people rise up, embrace the challenge, overcome it. You have to have that mindset to be successful in anything in life, to be honest with you. Sales comes with a lot of rejection. Business comes with a lot of pressure. You got to be able to handle that. You got to have a high tolerance for pressure and risk if you're going to be successful in sales and business. So we focus a lot of our effort initially working with a company and shifting that mindset.
Love that. And Gary, maybe you could talk a little bit about mindset shift in the marketing kind of space. Like, I'm sure, large contractors understand that marketing, you need a budget. That budget is probably, set a percentage of your overall revenue. But like for the smaller contractor, how do you help them understand that marketing is an expense that's needed?
Yeah, there are phases that come with that, CJ. a smaller company, $500,000, $2 million. Now we're talking about $500,000 company earlier today. They don't have the amount of money to go to paid search or to be able to compete with, an advertising budget that might require OTT radio, OTT cable, broadcast TV, things like that. Back, when I was affiliated with, we're spending 1.2 million on radio, 3 million on. So 500,000 company really has in terms of outbound call center, internal marketing, getting the technicians in a position where they understand how to create conversions. So, for example, if you're Wrench Group or Turnpoint or any of these large consolidators, you might be happy with 50% closure rate at ticket 17,000. If you're a smaller company and $500,000, the way you outcompete that is, well, we need a 60-70% closure rate, and the average ticket 23,000, because I'm probably not going to have many opportunities. So in order to create that profit matrix, it has to be better at things. The second thing is your existing customers are where you unlock value. And most of these smaller companies are not good at club agreements or service agreement protocol. And so the most important thing they can do is get 50% of their customer base tied into the club agreement program, so that when they get into the shoulder season, they have the ability to unlock transactions for the shoulder season through promotions, existing customers walking into the doesn't cost anything. So we had this in the service meeting last week that the majority of companies are spending, 8 to 10%, even more on marketing, and you can do a direct correlation to the service agreement club program. If you have 1,000 club agreements per $1 million of revenue or greater, you end up with a 3% cost of marketing. So that's 5 to 7% in profit that you're giving away. You don't have that ecosystem. You don't have that customer returning to you on a regular basis.
That makes a ton of sense. Recurring revenue, membership program, all things that
existing customers,
existing customers, remarketing to existing customers, because marketing to database costs you this much money, right? All things that Breezy can help you invest in, scale. And you guys are both very trusted advisors of Breezy since day one. You've been helping us fold in the sales teachings, the KPIs, the marketing, everything that has been folded into Breezy as a software. So talk to us a little bit about exactly what you're doing with Breezy, how you see Breezy kind of growing in the marketplace, and really the value that we offer.
Yeah, what I would just say real quick is that's true what you said. We've been in advisory roles from the very beginning. The thing I love about what they're doing, the thing that first got my attention from Ryan and Sean, who are the founders, is that they wanted to build something specifically for heating and air conditioning contractors, not something generic that would fit every conceivable contracting business, but specifically the heating and air conditioning. And so I think that's really important. In terms of their focus, obviously, as I mentioned, the sales function, the revenue generating function is really important, but you got to track that. It's the old saying, what gets measured gets done. And so just like the financial accounting is so important, you've got to be able to track your sales and your service revenue, right? Because on your financial accounting, you're going to look at on a monthly basis, right? You're going to look back and say, okay, here's how we perform financially. On the sales side, the service tech side, we need to be monitoring that on a daily basis. Every single day we're reviewing the numbers, and because they accumulate on a month-to-date basis. So I think that it gives a tool for the contractor / owner / manager to see exactly how we're performing. If I'm having a shitty month and my service guys or my sales guys are dramatically underperforming in terms of service revenue or marketing revenue, do I want to find out on the 5th or 6th of next month when I get my income statement? Or I'm going to find that out on the 10th of the month so we can start doing some training. Because if you're watching your close rates, your average ticket, revenue per lead, and those things on an ongoing basis, you're seeing the problems as they happen, literally on a daily basis. If I got a guy all of a sudden his close rate drops, I need to have a conversation with him about overcoming objections and closing. If I see a guy whose average ticket all of a sudden drops, I need to have a conversation with him about taking more time and building better relationships with my homeowner. So Breezy is designed to give us that information very, very easily and quickly in a easy to understand format, like the dashboard you just showed.
And Gary, we love coming out to the Caymans and experiencing your live training, and that's going to be something that Contracting Edge really gets into. Talk to us a little bit about the full slate of events. I think you said that there was 18 events coming up this year.
I think it was 16 or 18.
We currently have 18 scheduled. There may have to be more. One of the things I can say is we're going down based on the timing of when those events make sense for the year. So, for example, right now, we did the service management, service operations leadership. Next month, we're doing leadership development class for managers. March, we're doing a market class. Well, we have the sales class coming, I think, next week, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yep, in the next week, yeah.
So the thing is pointed towards the timing of the year for contractors to be able to take advantage of training so that they can actually take action. So the second part of that is we really want the contractors to do implementation. So part of what we're doing is we're creating project plans and action plans that are coming with the training. So when it says, well, I don't want an agreement program, I hand them the 42-step, plan here. This is how you do it, step by step, plus the materials. So live events to me is the Q&A, to ask questions. So these 18 events, are built to be able to create profitability and cash flow for contractors, not just do training, but actually put in place activity.
Sure. Weldon, you bringing the hot seat to the Edge events, the Contracting Edge events?
Yes, so we do two versions of the sales process training. We have our core training, which as Gary referred to, we're having January 30 and 31st, which is next Friday and Saturday. We try to do some stuff on the weekends when we can to keep people out of the field for short amounts of time. And then in March, we do the advanced closing. That's when we bring out the hot seat. We bring up the guys from the audience. They need to understand the core process. They either need to have been through a live event or through the online version. And we bring them in and do 2 days of role play. And when the reason we call it the hot seat is we got a big table skirt. It's the hot seat. And I sit there and role play with them and let them work together. And it's just it's about practicing the closing process, the closing sequence, overcoming objections. So, and as I mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation today, Gary and I have a strong belief that these in-person events are really, really necessary. And as a result, out of those 18 classes, now some of those are repeated twice, so it's not 18 separate classes. For example, Gary does his budgeting financial planning class, I think 3 times in the fall, because it's so important. We want to make sure that people don't have a scheduling conflict. I do our core sales training twice a year, our advanced sales training twice a year, our service tech training twice a year. But when people become a member of our organization, in addition to the online access, we do weekly coaching every Tuesday that's live. They also get 7 tickets to all of our events that they can use however they want to use. We just had a guy this morning signed up and got his 7 tickets, bought 2 more. So he's got 9 tickets and he's using them all in March, which is good because he'll buy some more for the fall, which is great. So we think these live events, so we incorporate them. They're part of our program. They're not just something, oh, by the way, if you want to buy tickets. And the reason that we incorporate and integrate it is that Gary and I have a pretty good sense of what works and what doesn't work. After his 40 years and my 20 some odd years, we have a pretty good idea what works. When you go to your doctor and he gives you a treatment plan, you don't really, if you're smart, you don't really say, well, I'm going to do this part and this part, but I'm not doing this other part, right? I mean, the doctor knows what's going to make you better. Well, we know what's going to help companies grow. And so the live events are an important part of that. So we integrate it. Like you can't just buy the online stuff and not do the live events. Not because I wouldn't want your money for the online stuff. It's because I know it's not going to fix the problem. I can't tell you how many times people come to live events. We do them in the car barn in Colorado Springs, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a place where I keep all my cars. But I can't tell you how many times guys come in and say it makes 100 times more sense when I heard it live because they have interaction. They can ask questions rather than just watching a program online. I tell people the online is like listening to the radio. the live events are like going to the concert. Same music, same lyrics, same people, same. And by the way, Gary and I do all of our own teaching, which I think is really important. We don't try to outsource this to some youngster who maybe not have the experience that one of us has. The live events are critical, and that's why we include them as part of the membership. 7 tickets, use them how you want.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I feel like, we've talked about it over and over. These, online trainings are good as refreshers, but the in-person events, getting, in a room with a bunch of like-minded people, with the experts that have been there before, and, having unlimited access to you guys is just, it's a night and day difference. So we're getting real.
Part of this is being able to scale, right? So if I hire a sales guy, if I've got the online, the LMS, which our clients do, obviously, they can start getting that salesperson, comfort advisor, up to speed very, very quickly. Now he's going to have a whole different experience, a whole transformation when he comes to the car barn for a couple of days. But we don't. What if you hire the guy and the next live car barn event is 3 months out? We want to be able to get him started, so we use the online to get him started, or as a refresher, as you mentioned. But then we got to get him to the live event because that's when the magic happens.
Absolutely. And we're getting pretty close to announcing our winner of the free ticket to the February 11th event. For everyone else, I want to launch a poll real quick. And if you'd like some more information about, the Contracting Edge's full slate of in-person events, Gary Weldon's team, they'll reach out to you after today's call and give you a little bit more information on those tickets. Gary, anything you'd like to add about the Contracting Edge events?
Well, I think as we go through time, we're going to add more events, more topics. So as Wally mentioned, there's probably 15 topics this year, 18 different events. We're repeating a couple of classes, but there are 22 different workshops. And so next year, as we roll into the 2026 period, 2027, we'll be launching some additional workshops that are specific. Things like building wealth for your personal habits. That's a workshop that most people don't teach, but we're going to teach that to everybody so that it's, when you make this 3% EBIT, what do you do with it? How do you invest? For yourself first. How do you set up accounts for your health account? How do you decide whether you want to buy real estate? What do you do with FX? So we're going to take some of our experiences like that and create classes that are beneficial to all individuals in the company, not just the company owner.
Perfect. And so, one thing that sticks out to me too, Weldon, is that, as an advisor with Breezy, you're not just, instructing salespeople on how to get better, you're instructing CSRs on how to get better, right? And you have that CSR toolkit that I can share with everybody after today's show. But talk to me a little bit about that.
That's one of the events that Gary and I have on the schedule this year, customer service training for CSRs. That first impression that a homeowner gets on that call and the conversation that ensues between the homeowner and CSR is critically important. And a lot of times it's a little bit undervalued in terms of its importance. And so Gary and I are going to be teaching a CSR event. I don't know the exact date. You can go to the contractingedge.com and see all the dates and schedules. But basically it's one full day. We're going to work on some mindset stuff. Then we're going to talk about how to set a proper sales lead. It's more than just getting a name and a phone number and a date, right? There's a relationship and trust we can begin building to put our comfort advisors in much stronger positions. And then in the afternoon, Gary's going to go into just the whole customer service experience and making sure the homeowners are getting the information and that our people are communicating in the proper way. And I just think it's a part of the business that's often underserved and overlooked. So we start from that, then we go into the service tech training on those events, the sales training, all the business planning, the budgeting, the marketing. I mean, we cover everything over the course of the year in these live events. If a person was to come to these events and say, go to, 5 or 6 or 7 of these events, how they decide to use their tickets, they're going to have a master's degree in business development at the end of the year, because we're going to cover all the various topics throughout the course of the year and everything that we have learned. Obviously we share. We're not trying to keep any secrets. We're sharing all that information with our clients.
Yeah, I want to add to that. Historically, when Wally and I, other instructors have worked in organizations, the nature of having fun was fairly limited. Wally and Gary are having fun. So, what that means in the car barn, there might be a whiskey bar, there
Maybe,
might be cigars,
probably.
there's definitely a fire pit.
Mhm.
So when we're done, we're sitting around the fire pit and we're relaxing and we're enjoying ourselves and we're enjoying the relationships that we're building with our customer community. And a lot of organizations really didn't like that, and we like that. We think that this business is about people, and you have to build relationships and the networking. And so I just want to make sure everybody knows we're going to have a lot.
Yeah. And if you like exotic cars, like I do, you'll probably see some Ferraris around there. In fact, you're very likely. We've got a new Aston Martin to the fleet, a G-Wagon G63 Square. We've got some old cars. We've got an old Bronco in there restored, a couple of old Camaros, and I got an old 62 Corvette that won't be done until this summer, but it's going to be a nice addition to the fleet. So if you like cars and want to check those out, and there's a big social aspect to this. After the first day, as Gary said, the bourbon bar opens up, or the beer bar, and the cigars, and we socialize for a couple hours. And honestly, that's where a lot of the real learning comes from, and just conversations with me and Gary sitting around the fire pit smoking a cigar. And it's just a great opportunity for people really to network and be able to pick our brains, not just about the obvious topic that we're teaching that particular event, but really any area of their business.
Love that. Work hard, play hard, and we're gonna need some progress pics of that vet being restored.
It's actually my vet. Wally made it easy, and I didn't give him a chance to renege on the deal. I accepted the price immediately. So
it's been under construction for 2.5 years, so we have lots of progress pictures. Unfortunately, a lot of them look the same because there hasn't been as much progress as I like.
Yeah, I know that the restoration projects take time, right?
This is 3 months ago, and this is today. I'm like, where's the difference? Well, there's a wire. See that other wire over there we hooked up?
Okay. The difference is you spent $100,000.
Yeah, another $100,000. I got this car. I'm going to end up having $1 million in it when it's done. We're almost there, and it's probably worth half of that. So,
well, we've
already have to enjoy it.
Made the agreement, $500,000.
Well, you had to buy it. You had to buy it when it was still in pieces and boxes for that price.
Before we announce the winner of the February 11th event, I wanted to tie back in the CSR component to Breezy, and we took a lot of what you taught us from the CSR kind of philosophy and incorporated it into our AI after hours CSR. And I wanted to play a quick conversation that I had. It's less than 2 minutes, but I want to kind of get your guys' feedback on how this conversation goes.
Hello, this is Brandy from Popa HVAC. I'm the after hours AI virtual assistant. How can I help you today?
Hi, I need help. My HVAC system is not turning on and it's pretty hot out here.
Oh no, that sounds frustrating. Since it's after hours, we do have an on-call technician available. Just a heads up, the trip fee is $200. Unless you're a club member, then it's only $49. Would you like me to gather your info so we can get someone out to help?
Yes, please.
We got the
All right,
club membership.
Let's get this sorted. Can I get your
conversation
first and last
started
name?
here?
Yes, my first name is CJ and my last name is Todd.
Got it, CJ Todd. Is this the best number to reach you at?
Yes, 209-349-1524.
Perfect. Can you tell me your address?
1234 Cherry Lane.
1234 Cherry Lane. Got it. And the city and zip code?
Merced, California, 95348.
All right, Merced, California, 95348. When did you first notice the issue?
It was about 3 hours ago.
Got it. And how did you hear about us?
I just did a quick Google search.
Hold on a sec. All right, CJ, I've got all your info, and I'll make sure someone from the team reaches out to confirm during normal business hours. Don't forget to ask your technician about our club membership discounts. Anything else I can help you with?
Nope, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for contacting Popa HVAC. Have a great day.
That's a smart robot.
Yeah, right. What do you think? stood out to you in that conversation? What did that software do well?
I'll tell you from my perspective, CJ, and I'll let Gary comment probably in more detail. That technology is kind of his thing. What I loved about it is you're not trying to trick people. At the very beginning, it says, I'm your AI assistant. Instead of, and I've been through some of these where they don't tell you that, like you're supposed to think it's a real person, like you're a freaking moron. I love the transparency there.
I totally agree with that. I would also say introduction to the club agreement, $49. I mean, that's a nice number. That's the number that we use. So there's personal bias there. A couple of things that I'll suggest. We download about 80,000 calls that we record each month in our agency. And so as we feed those calls into the AI, and these calls will get even better. And what's funny about that AI agent is two things: checking and confirming. The agent checked and confirmed each time you made some information, so you could correct that if it was inaccurate. And I'm struck with the accuracy of the pronunciation. Historically, the boss would say something like Marquette, and they're listening to you now. The auditory version of that is getting much better. So that particular agent, and it will continue to get better over time. So every single company should be using an after-hours AI service at this point. There's no exceptions. We've implemented that in all 7 of our companies.
Love that. Thanks for the feedback. I want to launch a quick poll and get everybody's pulse on if, this AI CSR, if Gary's dashboard was interesting to you. I'd love to, see if you want to learn a little bit more about the Breezy AI solutions. So if you would, please select yes in this poll and we can follow up with you afterward. Gentlemen, this has been an incredible session. I think, understanding your experience that you're bringing to the Contracting Edge events, how you can help contractors really pursue that 20% margin to give themselves flexibility to grow their business. All really great things. Is there anything you want to leave our viewers with today before we announce the winner?
I'll go first. I think you need to have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be, go to a bank or borrow money kind of plan. It just needs to be around your company's objectives. That would be number one. And the second thing is take action. The hardest part about doing is not reading the information and knowing what you need to do. Is actually taking that first step. So I think contractors by just doing those two things.
Yeah, and I would just say, in addition to having a plan, get better at what you're currently doing. One of the most common refrains I hear from contractors are, I need more leads, I need more leads. Well, you may or you may not. Eventually, you'll need more leads when you're capitalizing on every service call and every sales call the way you should be. If you're massively underperforming on revenue and service and your sales calls, a lot of times additional customers, additional leads will just lead to more frustration, increase in overhead. You've got to get good at what you're currently doing. When you're hitting the benchmarks, and I'll say benchmarks, not KPIs, because these are not KPIs, but certain benchmarks that we shoot for on average revenue per lead, average ticket, average service call, until you're hitting those numbers, you may need to focus on that before you start spending money on more leads and getting more overhead, et cetera. Once you are performing at a high level and you're hitting those benchmarks, then absolutely spend all you can on marketing, get as many leads as you can. But you got to know what you're doing with that stuff. Your leads should be like your children. You got to know where they are, what's up with them, what's going on, and making sure they're not out there just running amok at 3 years old around the neighborhood. You got to keep up with your kids. You got to keep up with your leads.
Absolutely. Well, drum roll, please, guys. Winner of the February 11th ticket to see you and Ken Goodrich in Las Vegas, Nevada is Lisa Burton from Bill's Super Heat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
She's already
I thought I was going to win. Now I got to
She's
pay
already
to go.
signed up, huh?
She's already signed up.
She's going to have to bring somebody else, I suppose.
I thought you were going to say CJ Todd.
Well, hopefully I can get snuck in the back door.
I was hoping I could get in there without having to pay for it, but now I guess I'm paying.
Well, guys, thanks to you both. This was such a Great conversation. Exactly the kind of clarity that we need right now. And everybody that joined us today, thanks for investing your time in learning how to build a business that doesn't just survive, but really thrives. If you want to keep learning with us, be sure to register for next week's show. We're inviting Seth Year of Set Sail to the show to break down how HVAC owners can improve pricing consistency, create faster proposals, really like what's next on the kind of forefront of AI and how to incorporate some of those solutions. I'll drop that link in the chat and we'll send it out by email. But until then, keep learning, keep leading, and keep building something that lasts. Thanks, gentlemen. We'll see you.
Thanks, CJ.
Thanks,
Take care.
CJ.
Cheers.
You guys.